This is Rewired. I'm Jeff Cook.
I'm Katie Whitlock.
Okay, we're continuing our deep dive into Processing Center using Joey Shuey's new book as a springboard for her thoughts, our thoughts, trying to get our head around some stuff that we've been thinking a long time, get it on tape. Loved our conversation. I don't know that you have heard the 1-3 conversation that's going to post tomorrow, but it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. I was there. I do remember a little bit.
Well, we're jumping into those who process with feeling. So this would be 2s, 4s, and 6s. Anything to set up here in terms of those who process with feeling?
I have two things. So one, if anybody, I don't know if it was in the 8 episode or the 3-1 episode, I forget, but or maybe it was in the intro, whatever. If anybody did not listen to any of those, I had a moment where I was like, I don't understand what it's like to process with feeling. I don't even conceptually understand it. I can't explain it to people. I don't understand. And so I was like, Jeff, I kind of need you. During the episode, I was like, I need you to explain it to me, right? And I felt weird about saying that. I was like, that's so, as a 3 who starts in feeling, I feel like I should understand what it means to process with feeling. But then, Jeff, you said something. You were like, that's really interesting because TJ said the same thing about doing. So TJ, the 9, who starts in doing, said he had the same reaction to doing processors where he was like, I don't understand what you are looking at to know that you have like done something, right?
How do you feel like you can change the world through your will?
Right.
Is something that's befuddling to him.
Yeah. And I don't understand. I'll probably set this up a little bit more later, but I don't understand. This feels really vulnerable for me to say, and I don't know why, but I feel like I need to say that. I don't understand what it means to process with feeling because it feels so like vague and loose. Like my working theory is processing with feeling is like you're just wanting to add relationship points to your relation. Like if anyone's ever played The Sims, when you interact with another Sim and it goes well, you get like a plus relationship like tag above your head. Like that's what I'm imagining feeling processors doing. Like they just want to go around and they want to like plus their relationships everywhere. As we go through this episode, that'll probably be altered a little bit, that definition. But that feels so scary to me because to me, you can't ever really know what the other person feels about you. Like if you're looking for connection and relation, that feels so scary because you can't know that the other person feels the same way. And so you're like banking your way of being okay in the world on just your assumption of what the other person feels, which to me feels so like, why would you ever want to do that? But that makes me 3, right? So long story short, what I'm going to need from this episode is a working definition of what it means to process with feeling because I can't see it intuitively. So as we talk through the examples and everything, at the end, I'm going to need a definition. And if anyone is a 2, 4, or 6 and you have any thoughts as we're going through this, open up your Patreon app right now,
please,
and leave a comment, please. If you have a definition of what it feels like to process with feeling or what you're looking at, what you want out of the world, I would love to hear from you.
Doubling down on that. I would love to hear from the 2s, 4s, and 6s on this front.
Yeah.
My first take on this, again, the way that I want to conceive of this is that what's taking place where Joey calls it processing, I really want to call it assessment. You are assessing whether you're good in the world. And for 5s, 7s, and 9s, they're assessing based on ease. For 8s, 3s, and 1s, they're assessing based on accomplishments. And this type, 2s, 4s, and 6s, are assessing whether they're good in the world principally based on their experience of connections with others.
Yeah.
I recall having a conversation with Joey on this in terms of talking about 2s during COVID and how like some of them were communicating that this was like their best life ever because everyone they cared about was in their house and they didn't need to worry about the world out there.
Yeah.
The things that that mattered most is the person in front of me, and they could serve them, love them, feel connected to them. Everything was fine as the world was burning, kind of thing.
But it's all great here.
And that pings for me in terms of just finding one's sense of self, happiness, and is the world good?
Yeah.
How do I know? It's based on connection.
The last thing I want to say is sort of an intro, is especially for 2s and 4s. And we saw this in the doing center as well, the doing processing. For 2s and 4s, it's going to be really important to separate them starting in the feeling center and how that affects them, right? Being in the heart center versus processing with feeling and how that affects them. So we can't just say, 2s and 4s want attention from other people because they process with feeling. Well, that actually comes from being in the heart center, right? From being a heart center number. So, I mean, it does get a little complicated in real life, but like those, it also feels important to me to separate those two things. The coming in information versus the going out information also is different. And 6s are going to be really where we see a divide because they start in a different center and then come over to process. But for 2s and 4s, it's hard to separate where that kind of stops and starts.
Yep. Of all the things, 4s and 6s, I think really need to get unpacked. 2s seem real straightforward to me. You take in the world emotionally, you process with emotions.
Done.
Am I connecting with other people?
Yeah.
If I'm not, I need to earn their affection.
Yeah.
All this external energy. That's a good place to start. Let's talk about 2s. That is the move. They are in the heart center. They are reactive types, and so they earn what they want in the world. And so if you're seeking to earn the attention of others, it's going to come out in a certain way. Joey does a great job of pitching the dynamics of that, both in her family and in the work environment. Anything to say before we jump into some of her quotes?
I think the big thing she sets up is, and kind of explains what you just said, Jeff, about this is like the easiest one to see, is the difference. Like 2s and 4s both take in the world emotionally and then process emotionally, right? The difference is that 2s, like you said, are reactive, which means they have an external reference point. And when we think of emotion and connection and relation, a lot of what we think about is external stuff, like coming out of yourself and connecting with another person, right? Whereas 4s have that internal reference point. So there's kind of this, not a contradiction, it just makes it look different, right? But 2s are in relational, out relational, and it's all external. They don't have any internal part of that. So it's so clearly all happening outside of them, right?
Big idea in her chapter is really there was a lot of prescriptions here to 2s to get into 4 space.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw that in a lot of the other chapters of saying, look, you need to get into your security move tools.
Yeah.
And part of that is, she writes on 91 that 2s uniquely depend on the rest of us to shape their opinions of themselves. Uniquely depend on the rest of us to shape their opinions of themselves. This is because so much of the energy of, it's again 2, 5s, and 8s, their energy is going outward. They're not doing business internally. And so how do you know who you are? Other people will tell me based on what I do for them. It's a big part of processing relationally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Identity for 2, I think it's important to name the difference between 2s and 3s here. The 2 is, by earning your attention, will gain their sense of value. 3s are not as dependent on the opinions of others in that fashion. You could speak more to this, but 3s are going to take hold and win the attention. Slight difference, but worth naming here, I think.
Yeah, I think the difference is that 2s want the relationship and I want admiration, which can look very similar, but admiration doesn't require me to have a relationship with you at all, right? I might need to have the pretense of a relationship or the ghost of or the shell, right? I mean, to make someone admire you, you do have to have some sort of interaction with them, right? But a relationship to me also is like a mutual caring about each other. And I don't need you to care about me, and I don't want to care about you, but I do want you to admire me as a 3.
Yep.
That's different. Whereas 2, they want the relationship, right? And I hesitate to say mutual because twos have a hard time with mutual relationships. Like twos want to take care of you. They don't always want to invite you in. I want to use the word mutual more with fours here. But just that real connection of like being invited into somebody's life. I don't really want to be invited into somebody's life. And I don't really want to invite you into my life either. I just want you to stand over there and be like, look how shiny she is. Right?
Yeah.
She looks so great.
Do you... I don't mean to pivot to threes here. I assume that there is something valuable in your life and mind about finding people who are your equals and peers. Am I wrong there? There's something about gaining admiration from others, but in terms of relational connection, I think, do you value peers?
I think Kelly said it really well when she got interviewed by Kristen on Inside Story. She had this line where she said, Kristen asked her about friendship or something like that. And Kelly said, it's really hard to be a true friends with a three because we need a real equal. I think it is hard for a three relationally because we really need someone who kind of operates at our same level. It's hard to meet people where they are, I think, as a three.
I mean, you have been pitching this and I've been resistant, but the fact that twos, threes, and fours take in the world through their heart center, and yet I want to say your language was something like they're the most divorced from that center.
Being in the heart center means you have a broken relationship with your heart, which gives you your sense of self.
To pivot to twos, sometimes in my relationship with twos, I'm a check mark. And in a similar way for threes, but the twos do it in that, have I given you the thing and have I received what I needed from you? Check mark, moving on. I continue to think that twos, fives, and eights have the smallest circle of trust. And that's how I experience it, is that I'm not really in your circle of trust. You are absolutely warm, serving me, seeking to earn attention, posturing in such a way that I'm in front of you, but I'm not in your circle.
Yeah. I almost want to call it a circle of vulnerability and not a circle, which is maybe we're talking about the same thing.
Yep.
But trust makes me think 6 as well, right? Like having a small circle of trust. I want to put 6 in there as well. But 2, 5s, and 8s for sure is like the vulnerability part, to see me really, right?
Yes.
Would be there.
I think that's a better phrase. I'm stealing mine from Meet the Parents. If you've seen that movie.
No.
But I got called out for being Gen X on the threads.
I was just about to be like, no, you're old.
Yeah, that's right. The fact that you like movies and music and can actually name artists, that makes you an old
Lame.
man.
Just kidding.
So funny. That was the biggest revelation for me in terms of our discussion of generations. It's just like, it was such a big deal to be informed.
Yeah, of course. That's all. Anyway.
Well, that's what the world is.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your quotes. I'm going to read down some of those that Katie selected for us and respond. But you're quoting Joey. This is on 92. Encountering a talker in any work environment likely means you're dealing with a 2 or a 6 who process with feeling and satisfy their desire to connect with the rest of us by engaging us in conversation. What stands out to you there?
So when I was going through this chapter and highlighting different quotes, what I was looking for was places where Joey like almost defined what it means to process with feeling, right? The one thing I will say that I think this is missing, and maybe I like skipped over it in the intro or something, but it's just like like what does it mean to process with the feeling center in a sentence, right? And what Joey does really well is she gives you a lot of examples of what it looks like when someone processes with feeling, but I don't think she ever gives a definition. And so what I was doing was going through and highlighting the parts where I was like, oh, well, this can add to the definition. So what I heard in this one, where it says 2s and 6s both process with feeling and satisfy their desire to connect with the rest of us by engaging us in conversation. And so to me, that was the first marker of, oh, okay, so to process with feeling means that you're desiring to connect with the rest of us. 2s and 6s, her point here is they do that through conversation. 4s, she'll have points, they do that in other ways. But the first like bullet point under what does it mean to process with feeling is a desire to connect with people. That is not super satisfactory for me yet, because again, like, how do you know when you've connected with someone? Like, how do you know? You know what I mean? How do you know that how do you know?
They love you. They care about you.
Like,
they
what
see
it's like,
you.
I guess. Is it just a feeling? I think this is such a blind spot of the doing processors, because achievement, you've either done it or you haven't.
Yeah.
Right? It's black and white. And feeling and thinking is so confusing to me because it seems so like subjective. Like, how do it's just a feeling. You just feel like you've connected with somebody. So
because you pick on me so often for my blind spots.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's just worth noting that how we're coming to this material, how difficult it is for the two of us to get our minds around this when it's blindingly obvious to some of our listeners how this works. That you need to like know that's like, I need to know this about others when I'm talking about processing with doing, or like, when I'm saying, look, these are the things that these are our goals. This is where we're going. This is what we're going to knock out. How are you not motivated by this?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
And similarly, so huge part of type right here. To back up for a second, she does have just a single small paragraph on feeling processing as a definition. So,
where is it in the intro?
It's in the intro, but I don't think your critique is wrong. And we've talked extensively about this.
The one we went over, in the intro episode, yeah.
But it is the case that more work could be done for really elevating the ideas here. But she writes that feeling processors, this is 33, feeling processors are extremely valuable because they are the most in tune with the client feedback and employee needs. 2s, 4s, 6s have the most accurate read on the pulse of organizations when it comes to well-being of clientele and personnel. Involving these feeling processors in decisions that affect cultures and client engagement is paramount. See, as I say that, I didn't read it before I did it. There's no definition there. There's what you said. It's all examples.
It's all examples of what happens when you are processing with feeling. But that doesn't actually let me into the mind of the feeling processor. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
there it is. Okay, well, I'm going to elevate my philosopher that I am. This is my job. What feeling processing is, in my view, is you are assessing through whether or not you're connected with other people. And so I suppose, at least that's where I would start.
But is it just up to you it's just whether or not you feel connected, and that's it?
I think it's the case. So because she spends a lot of time with the 2s in terms of their radar for others' emotions. And my assumption is that 2s can look at other people's emotions and say, are you reciprocating? Do you see me? Is it the case that there is an invisible mystical connection between us that has weight? Those are the sorts of things that, like, the romantic side of 4s is probably going to come out here. Like, do I feel like this person is, I have pulled you into my emotions. Are you able to swim in them in a way that's meaningful? And then for the 6, it's, look, I'm coming to the table with all of our welfares in mind. Can you validate the things that I see? And when you see my own radar and validate what I see, then there is connection. I suppose that's how I would play it out.
How does that make you feel as a doing processor?
How does it make me feel in relationship with these types?
Yeah, with these types.
So my brother's a 4. One of my partners, both Katie and Jackie are a 2 and a 6. These are the closest relationships
Kristen?
I have with Kristen. What did I say?
Katie.
Sorry.
I was like, what other Katie do you know?
Who's this other Katie?
Me?
Competition. Jackie's a 2. Kristen's a 6. I've kind of said this in the past. I have a very difficult time with relationships with 2s and 6s because we're both reactive types. And for me, that's just been a very difficult bridge to cross. But those are the closest relationships I have. My relationship with my brother, who's a 4, is intense on these fronts, especially because I'm family. And there's an expectation that I'll be able to understand and see a lot of the things that come out of his heart and what he's putting into the world. But I do feel like I intuitively feel that. So in terms of my body center, I intuitively feel when he wants attention, it's just like I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. You are pulling me, aren't you?
Yeah.
Do you feel that way around 4s and 2s? Like
I feel
like the vacuum?
2 4s and 6s, I feel like, okay, if you're a 2, 4, and 6, stay with me because this is going to sound negative and I'm going to make it not negative. I feel like they want something from me.
Yes.
That is how I experience them. You said that earlier, I think a few episodes ago about 2 3s and 4s in the heart center. I feel that way about feeling processors. And to make this not negative, I only feel that way because I process with something different, right? Maybe like feeling processors feel that way about doing processors, right? Like maybe 2 6s and 4s feel from 8 3s and 1s that no matter how good our relationship is, we're always going to want to push forward, right? It's never enough. Like we always want more. Yeah. So I don't mean that that's like inherent to feeling processors. I maybe just mean that's because they're processing with something different than I am. But I just feel like when I feel done, right? When I'm like, okay, we did the thing, high five. 2 6s and 4s are like, but there's more. We need to talk about it, right? Yes. No. How did you feel doing the thing?
Yes.
And again, I start in the
feeling
feeling.
Actually takes place.
Right. I start in the feeling center. I do like connection, right? So it doesn't. Yeah. It's not like in real life that bothers me all the time, but that is what it feels like. It feels like when I'm done, they're not done yet, and I actually assume again it happens vice versa as well. I just feel like they're always looking at me. I feel like they're always looking at me. 2s and 6s specifically because of that external part. But
there's something about chasing those in the independent stance in that posture. I'm like I'm trying to grab those who are 3 7s and 8s, and there's always 3 7s and 8s can create that little divide. Yeah,
for sure.
But I feel that way. Like the gifts in order to get is something I'm hyper suspicious of, unfortunately. On the 2 front. In the 4 front, I can just feel the pull. For 6s, I just don't have a lot of close relationships with 6s, but I do understand I'm gonna pitch a handful of questions, and these at some level are about testing our relationship and whether you care about me and whether or not you're trustworthy. Like, how are you going to respond to what I'm putting out there?
Yeah.
All right. Second quote. Simply put, 2s are generally uncomfortable with silence and are often the swiftest to fill silence with words, whether another person is present or not. What do you see there?
So I see this one because it's funny because my mother has literally said that out loud before. So my mother to the 2 will say one of the biggest parts of her journey as a 2 has been learning to not fill the silence, like specifically. And she will say, I highlighted that because she says she does it because she feels like if we're not talking, we're missing chance for connection. And my sister and I, the 3 and the 9, are like, you can't just connect with somebody just by sitting next to them. Like Elena and I, when I go visit her in New York, we just sit on her bed. You know what I mean? We'll go out for the day and we'll come back, and before dinner we'll just sit on our bed and we won't talk. We'll just be next to each other. And that's like one of the best parts of the entire day because we just get to like be next to each other, right? But my mom, that does not make her feel like that, right? If she was sitting on the bed not talking, she feels like we're letting all these chances for connection just go out the window, right? And so to me, that so clearly illustrates the difference in feeling processing is like you have to, there's almost this like creation of the relationship that has to happen. It doesn't just exist and you can't just sit in it. You have to like create it at like actively. You know what I mean? I didn't put that in my notes. That was shooting from the hip right there. But
no, I want to build on that. I feel like 2s, 4s, and 6s all spur the person in front of them in ways. And I mean that in the riding a horse sense. Like you spur a horse to get the horse to move. And there's a spurring that takes place from these types to like open up the activity of connection and engagement.
Which makes them, again, we talk about these people as like the community people, right? I mean, 6 gets the like stereotype of the community builder, but 2, 6s, and 4s all do that really well. They all draw people in, right? They all connect people to each other. They all do that. And maybe that's why.
You're right to say that way. Like, I feel like I'm spending this a little bit more negatively than I ought to be. This is a huge value to a lot.
Huge value. Absolutely. Yeah. Who would we be if we were not surrounded by our 2, 6s, and 4s? None of us would know anything about each other. We'd just be super comfortable sitting next to each other on the bed and not talking. But we wouldn't know anything.
We built that whole city. What are we doing next?
Yeah, now what? Right? Exactly. Sorry, when's your birthday again? Yeah. Like, really, what would our lives be like if we didn't have the feeling processors, right? Spurring us on to connect with each other. I do want to, like, I don't want people to be listening to I don't want people to listen to my confusion about feeling processing as, like, I think it's a negative thing and I think it's so stupid and that's why I don't get it. I just don't get it. It's hard for me to see. But I think it's super valuable. Super valuable in our lives.
Well, it pushes into motive and what you value. And those are not, like, that's not deductive. It's not like smart people do this and dumb people do this. This is who you are. This is your wiring. This is how you feel sound in the world. There it is. Page 94. You had us reading, when 2s are anxious or in a lower functioning space, they will actively seek out coworkers who might be struggling as a way to fuel themselves with an emotional charge. Thoughts?
So I did this because I was like, oh, interesting. So this is in the larger context for this quote is that Joey's talking about one of like the shadow sides of 2, where 2s are kind of drawn to people who are suffering. And so it might be hard for a 2 to feel satisfied around somebody who's happy because someone who's happy does not need you, right? Whereas someone who's suffering does need you. So a lot of 2s find themselves in relationships with people who are suffering. And then she says an unhealthy 2 might even actively seek that out, even at work. And then this was like the ending quote of that paragraph, right? I highlighted it because I thought it was interesting when she said they'll actively seek out coworkers who might be struggling as a way to fuel themselves with an emotional charge. And I was like, oh, is that also a part of feeling processing? Like, are you wanting to feel an emotional charge? That makes sense to me, right? Like, is that the end goal? To feel emotionally charged with something? So I highlighted that mostly to kind of bring that up to you and be like, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Like, is that how you read that quote too?
I assume it's the Enneagram 2 equivalent of a gold star.
Oh. Okay, I got it. Yeah, that makes sense. Again, it just feels so like emotional, like that feels so vague. And it's going to go away. Like a gold star I can hold up forever, you know.
That's still in my Tupperware box in the closet.
Yeah. But anyway.
I think there's just something to be said about all these types in terms of equilibrium and feeling okay. How do you know you're okay? And I feel like a lot on all the types, there's almost like a radar ping, you know, like this is how radar works. You know, you send out a signal and then something bounces back at you. And what you're receiving back matters. It's like I'm interacting with the world to assess where I'm at. And I think all of us are doing this the way that 2s, 4s, and 6s are doing it. It's just that very much it's based on the ping they want back is connection.
Yeah.
And the easiest way, and she says this a handful of times in her chapter on 2s, is they're looking for people in need. And so you brought up suffering, but there was like, I need to feel good about who I am in the world. And so I'm looking for the people who are in need so that I can feel this. This also goes, like, if you look at the sorts of jobs that twos generally will embrace, very common for twos to be in spaces where they're serving. So one of our best friends in the world serves special needs teenagers, is brilliant at this job, and it's just all that I'm giving in order to, and she's just constantly getting this kind of feedback, you know, that emotional, I feel good in the world because notice I'm serving these other folks. Anyway, that's how I read that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Bang. Your next quote. When twos honestly consider the return on investment with others, do the scales ever tip in their favor? How often is productivity sacrificed for relational cultivation? Questions?
So I brought this up because in our doing processing conversation, we had a whole conversation about when you process with something, that means that at the end of the day, that's what you're going to pick, right? You might like doing and relationships and ease. All of us like all three of those things a lot of the times, right? But if you had to pick just one, what would you pick? And I thought that was really well illustrated here. When she says, how often is productivity sacrificed for relationship cultivation? Like that's what doing, it's picking at the end of the day, it's cultivating your relationships. I will sacrifice productivity. I will sacrifice feeling at ease. I will sacrifice all this other stuff if I can just cultivate a relationship with you. And that makes total sense to me, fitting into the definition of what it means to process with a center. That's why
she told the story, didn't she, about like one of the people that worked with her or under her going around and spending half of her time just checking in with people. And it was a point of frustration for her. It's like, you do realize that we have work to do. And for that too, that was the quote unquote, the work. Yeah.
She was talking about how so Joey tells twos that they need solitude and introspection. And so the two at work was like, okay, well, I'll start going outside, you know, for 5 minutes a day and just nobody's out there. Like, I'm just going to walk around, go out there. But to get from the two's desk to outside, passed by all her coworkers. And the two was just saying like how it basically literally was impossible for her to get to outside because every single person she passed was a relationship that she could cultivate, right? So her hard wiring was to pick all of those things over making it outside, even if she wanted to make it outside, right? Her brain was kind of forcing her to pick these interactions with people over, you know, whether or not she ever actually made it. And then Joey, I think maybe these questions were like, how often are you sacrificing what you want to do for the people who you feel need you, which is a great example of feeling processing.
What does that look like in terms of your relationship with your mom? Do you see that?
One of the things that I hear my mom talk about, this isn't my relationship to my mom, but if my mom is listening, I don't really experience this as a true negative, but you know, twos can sometimes do this thing where once they have a relationship on lockdown, and I actually wonder if 6s and 4s do this too. I don't know. Once they have a relationship on lockdown and it feels cultivated, I would assume, they can then go out and search for more relationships because again, I'm kind of rolling this theory in my head is that when you're processing with something, as soon as it's done, you want more of it. Like doing processors, as soon as it's done, we want to do more, right? Feeling processors, as soon as the relationship is cultivated, you want to do another one, right? So what happens when you're like the family member of a two sometimes is that you can feel like, you know, they're supposed to be these super feeling types and super connected with you all the time. But sometimes a two will not like abandon, but that's the word I want to use, their family who they know they have to go chase down these people outside of the family who the two does not know that they have, right? And to cultivate that relationship. And I hear that in a lot of twos will talk about that. Family members of twos will talk about that. I've heard that a lot of places.
Yep.
So that's also interesting too. I think that adds something to the definition of feeling processing. Like who it's coming from matters. if it's new matters, like you don't want to just cultivate the same relationship over and over again, although that might be a part of it too. But that adds I don't know, that adds an interesting element, I think.
This opens up a big door for me, which I hadn't thought about before. It's real. I'm positive I got this from the Stabiles, that your stress move saves you from excess.
Yes. Yeah.
I've never thought about how security moves save you from excess as well, because you can push that pellet button over and over and over again. I have accomplished the thing. What's next? As opposed to, for the 831, saying I have fulfilled my motive, and now I get the luxury, the joy, the experience of moving into my security number, where I no longer have to establish my motive and, anymore. Yeah. I'm the 2 is free to serve and be vulnerable. The 3 is free to move into those spaces where it's everyone. The 1 is free to envision new things and get adventurous. Security opens up a door so that you don't have to keep staying in that spot. So too, the 2 here, you have served the people. You got some feedback. You can shut that down. You can shut that off and actually do some inner work. So much of her chapter on 2s
is do the inner work.
She does what Russ Hudson does, and I've wanted to bring this up the whole time. She teaches the number to the number. When we get to 4s, she has like 5 illustrations of people who she loves and knows and wants to elevate them, as though she wants to write in such a way that 4s, this is the way that 4s learn. So let me write in the way that will hit the heart of a 4. Yeah. I feel like this is exactly what she's doing with 2s. It's like, look at all that you've done for us.
Yeah.
Look at all these things that you've done. Now you have permission to do some inner work. Like, that is the chapter.
Yes, you're allowed. Yeah. And here's all the ways it'll benefit your relationships, right? Like, push somebody's buttons. If you go do the inner work, guess what? You can come back and give to all your relationships again, right? It'll be so much better.
True.
Like, that is how you get a 2 to do the inner work, right?
Yes. Once you're grounded, you're going to have so much more.
Yeah.
Authentic, beautiful energy for everyone else.
For
so
the
make
things
sure
that
you
matter
do the
to
inner work.
Yeah.
That's fun. That's such a bait and switch at one level. Funny. All right, last quote here. As established in part 1, healthy self-esteem and self-confidence are shared traits of the independent stance types who utilize feeling center least or last, establishing a correlation between higher self-regard and lower self-reliance on the feeling center. This also stood out to me. You want to speak to this in terms of the contrast?
Well, I highlighted this because sometimes when we need a definition, it's also helpful to talk about what it is not, right? Sometimes it's helpful to define something by all the things that it is not. And I thought this was a good illustration of Joey's putting together this kind of inverse relationship between high self-regard and self-confidence and spending a lot of time in the feeling center. And I don't know if I have the words for what I think that says about the feeling center. Maybe you do, but I thought that was interesting. Like, to spend a lot of time in the feeling center and to process with feeling is inherently giving up self-confidence, which to me as an independent type is very, 1, scary because that feels vulnerable, and 2, a very clear illustration of how important relationships are to people, that they would give up self-confidence in order to have it. Like, that feels crazy to me. Again, because I'm a 3, right? Not that it is crazy. But that was very clear. When I was reading that, I was like, oh, these are the things you have to not have in order to have feeling processing, right? And so what does that say about feeling processing? I don't know. Why did you highlight this section?
I'd be curious if there are giving up self-confidence. Did she use that?
No, she didn't. I just said that. And I don't know how I feel about that. If you have other words to, I mean, that assumes that they had it in the first place, right?
Yeah.
I don't mean that, I guess.
Yeah. So, but how you're characterizing it shows the contrast. Is you're coming to the world in essence, having told yourself a story about yourself from an independent space, living out of that, and then seeking to gain what you want from that spot. They're not telling themselves a story about themselves. That's the big thing. The 4 is authentic. The 2 and the 6 are looking for messages from other people. That's the starting line.
Yeah. That blew my mind a little bit. I don't have anything else to say.
I'll take it. I think, and that becomes, I had mentioned this to start, that I just feel a lot of empathy on these fronts for these types, because that's obviously not where I land. And the thing about people is the judgment of other people about you is commonly flawed. It's commonly the case that other people simply do not spend time to think about you in a way that would be meaningful, and outsourcing one's opinion of themselves to the influx, often fallacious viewpoints of others is really a recipe for, self-harm, for doing damage to yourself. You gotta find some other anchors. But the biggest quote for me was actually on the next page on 97. While 2s are known for their positivity, processing with feeling means that their positive mindset comes at a personal cost. Reframing with thinking doesn't cost 7s and 9s much because their optimism isn't reliant on others. For 2s to engage positivity, they must reframe people and relationships. And this hardwiring inevitably makes 2s vulnerable to personal loss when others don't live up to the regard they so generously bestow on them. Defensive daughter coming and throwing punches is what I see, that you're being way too positive about these clowns in the world and you're reframing. But I love the idea that it is the reframing is about other people and spinning them positive.
So that I can be in relationship with you.
Yep. Yeah. And just what you can easily walk down a path where you're going to get thrown in a wood chipper. Yeah. Yeah. You might not get thrown in a wood chipper, but you can get thrown in a wood chipper.
Yeah. So, having learned from Joey, I know that this is, she has a theory about, oh my goodness, bad Enneagram teacher moment. Is it harmonic groups? The 1, 3, 5, 2, 7, 9. Positive outlook.
It's coping style.
Coping style. Coping style.
That's what at least we call them.
So she actually has this theory that she taught us last time I was with her, that one of the numbers in each of those groups actually switches kind of halfway through, right?
I'm suspicious of this.
Yeah. So,
sorry.
But that's okay. You can be suspicious. But I just want to illustrate like why she's saying this. 2s, in her theory, 2s are the number that switches. They start in the positive outlook, but then they actually switch into emotional realness, which again, we could talk about, right? So I'm not saying that's like true or false, but, and this is why 7 and 9s can stay in positive outlook as long as they want, because it has nothing to do with anybody else. They're just creating the environment they want or the ease that they want, right? 2s are doing it for your benefit. Right? 2s are giving you the benefit of the doubt for you and for them, because then they can be in relationship with you, right? But then that leads to the 2 being like, I walked into the wood chipper for you. Like if you just keep taking advantage of a 2 and keep taking advantage of a 2, what happens is that at some point that does snap, right? Yep. The 2 can only give the benefit of the doubt for so long. And then Joey says to switch into this, like getting very angry with people, right? Yeah. Which again, you could argue that maybe that's just a stress move or whatever, but
I'm being overly critical. What's taking place is processing center. The two is, in my view, coping style. So for 2, 7s and 9s, they are positively taking a positive outlook when a problem emerges, which means they shut down action. They want you to feel a certain way and to think a certain way. That's how the problem is solved. It is not addressed with physical activities. This is how 2, 7s and 9s solve problems. What ends up happening is the 7 and 9 are also in that processing center of processing with thinking, which allows them to stay in that thinking center.
Yeah.
But she's not. The 2 isn't. The 2 moves off of thinking into feeling, and that's what happens. You're exactly right in terms of the processing is why the 2 looks different. It's because once the problem has been attempted to be solved through a positive outlook, the 7 and the 9 assess through their brains, and the 2 assesses through their feelings.
And when you're assessing through a relationship, you can only delude yourself for so long, right?
Correct.
Eventually, the relationship's just going to be so bad that you have to break it off.
Yeah. The only reason that I say I'm suspicious, I don't think there's any reason to create a new category here.
That's fair.
There's movement. The Enneagram is all about dynamic movement, and this is how the movement works for the types, and why it's so important to say coping style is about problem solving.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm gonna go. Can I go through? If I was listening to this, I'd want to be like, what are the other 2? So very quickly, she says that 3s, we say they're in that, oh my gosh, what's the group called? Not the logic group. That's not what it's called. Competency. So 1, 3, 5 are competency. She'll say that 3s eventually switch into positive outlook. And I actually would sign off on that. I have experienced that for sure. And the reason is that if you really, really want to solve a problem with competency, you might have to piss some people off. And 3s really, really struggle with that. I really, really want to find the smoothest way forward, the most charismatic way forward. And that is positive outlook, right? Finding the smoothest way forward is like...
That is the place I disagree. But let's talk about this for 2 seconds, because I think it's super helpful. I take the 3 as... I think the 1 and the 3 stick in action, where it's actually the 5 that moves back into processing with thinking, and the 1 and the 3 are processing with doing. So when solving a problem, we are 1, 3s, and 5s shut down emotion, seek to execute what's right, what's the goal, what does the data say. 5s turn back into thinking and say, did we do the job? Is my motive fulfilled? I think that the 3's positivity comes in partially because you're feeling repressed, and partially because what is it going to take to win? That in general just has a tinge of optimism, but really it's about execution, is what I would say.
Are you saying competency group is the only one that solves the problem? So if you're solving the problem...
Competency group shuts down feelings to solve problems.
Right.
And then 2 7s and 9s shut down action to solve problems. And 4 6s and 8s shut down thinking to solve problems, is what I would have argued. It's in our book.
Okay, we should do another episode on this because I don't agree with that. That'd be fun. That's interesting.
Rock.
A little preview for another Rewired episode.
But I did.
Anyway,
I have heard her on that front, and I think it's
switch
an
into
interesting
competency would be her final thing. They start in emotional realness, and then
Yeah.
she says 8s very, very quickly move into competency. Anyway, back to processing center.
Yeah. So much to say there. I mean, in terms of what's really being outlined there, we're throwing out a bunch of numbers. In my view, what's really being showcased there is how types move around the circle.
Yeah, agree. For sure.
So that's anyway. It's doesn't need to be all that complicated. Last word on 2s? Nothing.
I don't think I have any last words on 2s. Love ya.
I think
go to 4.
It's again the case. Well, I never heard her say go to 7 for the 1s. This is where I think this book becomes, just to highlight some of the beauties of the book. I'm curious if she outlined kind of in her mind and heart when composing, what is it that this type needs to hear most?
Mm-hmm.
What I saw in this, and I've said it already, is I feel like this is a love letter in some ways to her mom's heart, that you have permission to get in touch with what you need.
Yeah.
And to other 2s beyond. Very personal, just like her chapter on 8s is very personal. I felt like this was a very personal chapter.
And Joey will say 2s and 3s have the hardest time doing the work for a lot of reasons, right, that we've discussed. And so maybe also this is like, she knew that when she was talking to 2s and 3s, she was like, this is the work you have to do, right?
Yep.
Just being nicer and kinder isn't actually the work, right? For 2s specifically. Just taking care of people more and understanding more about the other people that you want to take care of isn't doing Enneagram work for you, right? I mean, it's doing partly. The work you have to do is this. And I know you are uncomfortable with it, so I'm going to tell you 17 times, right? I don't know. Maybe with 1s,
yeah,
I don't find that 1s have to be convinced to do the work. You know what I mean? Or that they don't understand what their work is. You say they do. I guess more than like a norm.
I said we do not.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like you already know or believe something is bad about you. You're telling me I can fix it by doing these things? Great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think 2s and 3s.
I wake up in the morning and what do I need to do to work on myself?
Right.
That is the primary question on my mind.
Right. You don't have to be
Weigh
invited.
myself. Here's a shake. It's disgusting and green. Done. I'm on it. I'm on that green shake. First thing.
Green shake, move to 7. Got it.
I can go on an adventure if I down this sucker.
Yeah, right.
What is that? Kale
That's
and
funny.
broccoli mixed with vanilla powder.
Ew.
I mean, I don't do the kale and broccoli. I do blueberries.
That's good. Kale and broccoli and vanilla doesn't sound good.
I avoid, actually, I can't do the greens on these things. Anyway, all right, we're going to move to 4s.
4s.
Are you fulfilling your purpose? It's her little saying up front. Your first quote on 4s is on 103. Processing with feeling means that 4s have the same capacity for heightened people awareness that 2s have, while the 4's internal reference point endows them with a deep knowledge of self that is the 2's aim. Lots to say about direction with 4s and 2s, and she gets into that.
I highlighted this because, again, instead of giving one like specific definition of feeling, she drops little nuggets all over of like what's included in feeling processing. And so I just think this is one of them. Processing with feeling means that 4s have the same capacity for heightened people awareness that 2s have. Okay, so feeling processing means that you have a heightened people awareness. Got it. Like that was helpful for me in kind of building my little definition of what it means, right? And I would agree. I would apply that to 6 as well. 6s absolutely have a heightened people awareness, you know? I think you could also say that, I think you could say that about 3s in certain aspects, but we certainly don't assess through that. Well, anyway, do you have any words on the difference between the 2, 6, and 4s heightened people awareness and the 3s heightened people awareness?
4s are in a tricky spot here. Because their energy is going inwardly and they're getting their motive fulfilled through attention, which is, I suppose I experience as very much an outward thing. So she'll talk about the affect of 4s, which is to pull, just like 7s and 1s pull people. 4s pull people into their emotions, but that's a tricky thing. You have to throw out fish hooks. You got to be, you have to be captivating. You have to be magnetic. You have to stand over to the side and hope people see you. And processing with feeling looks like it's in that space. And the critical self-assessment 4s can have of themselves in kind of low space can be, why am I not captivating enough for people to come and see me, to move into my space? And so where the 2 has that the gear of just saying, look, I'm just going to serve you where you're in need and I'll get the attention I desire. 4s, unless they're in stress, 4s don't have that option. 6s similarly can say, look, have we considered all the things that might go wrong? That allows them to get attention and establish connections, establish their value, show that they're on the team. And but 4s just are in that very tricky spot. And this is why 4s can come across as overly dramatic. The drama is about attention, but it's not attention. I'm going to serve you so that I'm in your face, giving you what you need. They have to be dramatic so that people are like, oh, that's a captivating person. I'll go see what all this emotion's about.
Right. Well, sometimes like 4s will sometimes do that things where, like you said, they're in the corner of the room and then they go home and they're upset that nobody noticed. And then everybody else was like, wait, what? They were over, like, they didn't do anything over there. You know what I mean? We were just supposed to know to go over there. Right.
Yeah.
Again, that's kind of unhealthy 4. Ooh, I had a point with that. I agree. The pressure to be captivating, so that people come to you of their own volition, and the pressure to be magnetic and all the things. I've never really thought about that before.
The envy is there. I don't think the 4 envies so much this person is building buildings, No. They are envying that person is garnering the acclaim and attention and the focus of others. And that's what's being envied. And so it does become, how do I become more captivating?
Right. That's good. Because that, again, feeling processing, it's not that person is doing all those things. It's that person did all those things and then everybody loved them.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what they're assessing.
I have put off going back. We've recorded our panels on 4s and 5s. One of the things the 4s, I really wanted to push into this question for the 4s. So when it gets published someday, go to it. But trying to elicit from them why that connection matters so much to them. And I just remember there was lots of beautiful language. I can't remember what they said, but it is the case that similar to 2s, the reception of others was a primary for this type.
Yeah.
My brother is a musician. My brother puts on his Instagram way too many shirtless videos. This is pay attention to me.
Yeah.
Notice I'm singing and how captivating I am.
Well, it's funny because a lot of 4s I know, like specifically, aren't on social media, right? But it's kind of the same. Like they'll like if somebody needs to find me, they'll find me. So it's kind of the same.
Prove it.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, to go back to 2s, when I was talking about the relationship, like in The Sims, when you talk to somebody and you get a plus to your little relationship meter, I do experience that from 4s as well. Like if we're saying that's one of the definitions of feeling processing, right? Like 4s, I've said this on my interviews with 4s, like 4s were the easiest to interview for early access because they're so warm and inviting and they want to talk about themselves, but not in like a self-centered way, just to like they know about themselves. So it's very easy for them to talk about themselves. And like that connection, I just heard over and over from all the 4s, like connection is the most important thing to me. Mm-hmm. Which I think when you're first learning about 4s, you're learning all these like harmful stereotypes about them. You wouldn't really think, like you just think the 4s just want everybody to pay attention to them. But 4s will tell you what I really want is connection, right? Yeah. I want somebody to see me for sure. But I also want to see other people. You know what I mean? Like that's interesting to me, why other people do what they do and the feelings behind all the, what they're doing and all the things. Like 4s also like to listen to you talk about it as well, Yep. So.
Lots of 4s and lots of 5s are therapists. Therapists are commonly one of those 2 types for different reasons. Mm-hmm. But for the 4, this is a big way that 4s can get the attention they desire, is understanding that if I get you talking about your inner life, that it awakens space for you to ask about mine. That can be, is that a 2 move? I'm serving you in order to be served?
Probably a little bit. Joey's language is the move to 2 is when they move external. So they go from internal feeling to external feeling. That's the move from 4 to 2. So probably.
I wonder if there's just a lot more movement along that arrow between 2s and 4s, pivoting external, internal.
That's what I thought when I was reading this chapter. It was like, it sounds like 4s are moving a lot. I wonder if it has something to do, like if you can stay in the same center, maybe it's easier to move, right? because it's just the direction that's moving. I'd be interested to go over and look at 5 and 7 then, like, or do 5s move a lot? You know, I don't know, but
I could say, I would say it for myself of like, when I get really tired of being angry at myself, I'll just turn my anger outward. It makes it way easier. So,
right.
okay, I'm tired of beating myself up.
Right.
Who can I yell about in the political sphere?
Misery
that guy
loves company. Yeah. Yeah.
So, the fours possess a natural gift for connecting with others in a way that elicits depth.
I highlighted this because I thought it was a good way of pointing out feeling processing, but also specifically the feeling processing that 4s do. So when she says possess a natural gift for connecting with others, feeling processing, in a way that elicits depth, that's how 4s do it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I liked this is what feeling processing is, and this is what it specifically looks like in a 4. I guess the second part of that, like the desire for authenticity, is not as important to why I highlighted that part. But what do you see there?
I'd love to build on that. I had that quote marked as well, but there's one of the following paragraphs says, authenticity can be daunting if you don't know or like who you are. This concept has long separated 2s and 3s from 4s in the heart triad. Mm-hmm. The uneasiness within that prompts 4s to loathe social conformity triggers the opposite reaction in 2s and 3s, who tend to over-rely on the comfort that adjusting to social norms provides them.
Yes.
I thought that's a great window into distinctions in the heart triad, yet they're all seeking to fulfill the same motive. I think that's where the disconcertingness comes in, and the disconnection.
I've always felt that 4s are very brave to do what they do. If they experience the same shame that I do, which they do, and aren't constantly running away from it, that's very brave, I feel like, because I can't imagine that. Just sitting in it and just being like, yeah, here it is. That's what I heard there. Like that feels like it takes an incredible amount of strength to me, and an incredible amount of knowing yourself, you know, and knowing what you want.
I think that's a great way to name something that I see in a lot of 3s ends up being that, not just the elevation that this is a virtue, authenticity is a virtue. But for the 3 wanting to really come into contact with things that are real, you have that wing. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that emerges in that space. The 4 just lives in that space of the only thing that has meaning is the thing that has depth and reality to it. And I can't pivot off it, you know?
Yeah. Yes.
I would again want to just highlight that 4, 6, 8 triad. This is again affect groups. They shut down their thinking. They elevate action and feeling. And when seeking, to solve problems, a primary for the 4 is is getting into their bodies and asking to be seen for who they are. But the 6 and the 8 function that same way. Do you see the problems I see? Says the 6. Do you see the problems I see? Says the 8. There's a through line there for that 4, 6, 8 triad that I think is kind of exposes their heart, and that's where authenticity really lives. Those 3 numbers are all seemingly devoted to what's real.
Yeah.
At a high level.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, authenticity, a lot of times when we talk about authenticity in the Enneagram, it is like being honest about how you're feeling, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially about how you're feeling
and your emotions, and don't hide them from me. Right. So that does get elevated. 4, 6, 8. Like, they're the number, you go through each center, they're the number that's most comfortable. Right.
Yeah.
Well, 6
anyway, that's worthwhile. The 1, 3, 5s, they're not looking at the feelings for what's real. They're looking at the tangible stuff out there for what's real.
Yeah. Feelings just have nothing to do with the problem.
Yes.
In
fact, they're an obstacle to solving the problem for us.
Yeah. We can talk about our feelings later, right? But that has nothing to do with solving the problem, is how I experience 1, 3s and 5s.
And then the 2, 7, and 9, as we talked about before, they're positive spinning, which means authenticity is actually the problem.
Yes. Yeah. 2 7s and 9s experience 4 6s and 8s as like Debbie Downers, and you're just pointing out a problem that like you're just making it worse for everybody, blah blah blah, right? All the things.
When I've said this countless times, but one of the most helpful things in our family was naming our coping style, because it exposes this. When problems emerge, it really is going to showcase some of the tension that you're going to experience when trying to solve the problem.
Yeah.
So, my mother and beloved stepfather, both positive outlook. My hair is on fire with certain problems, and they're just like, "It's all right. We're just fine.
Yeah, right,
Let's go get seafood.
You'll be all right." Yeah.
The world is falling apart.
Yeah. No.
Have another shot.
Yeah.
Makes me laugh. All right. Another quote from Shuey on 111. 4s are the only solitary type to process with feeling, making preoccupation with feelings and comparison to others an inevitable byproduct of solitude and introspection. Extended this understanding to the reality that awareness of others requires drawing from the feeling center.
So I did this for 2 reasons. 4s are the only solitary type to process with feeling, making preoccupation with feelings in comparison to others an inevitable byproduct. So to me, that means something. I almost would argue maybe this is more of a triad thing, again, a heart thing, but because of the word comparison. But feelings and comparison come from being in the feeling center. And then at the end, she says reality. She says that awareness of others requires drawing from the feeling center. So I just highlighted this because that's like 2 more bullet points to add to my definition of feeling center. It is a preoccupation with feelings, at least for a 4. You know what I mean? Well, 2s, also 2s, it would just be the feelings of others, and 6s, the feelings of others. So sure, preoccupation with feelings. I had to talk myself into that. And then the awareness of others. Certainly I see in 2 6s and 4s. You know, I do think 4s are aware of others. I just think they also want others to be aware of them, you know?
Yeah.
I don't
this
think.
Is an interesting.
No, go ahead.
What I see here is the thing that's interesting about the heart triad in comparison. Think about the head triad for a second. 5s together can get along great. They're diving into the thing together. 7s get along great. Yeah. We're going on the adventure together. 8s, 9s, and 1s all respecting each other's spaces. Understand intuitively that that's your section. This is my section. Don't get into each. 2s, 3s, and 4s are vying for attention.
Yeah.
And that by its nature is going to create comparative feelings, but especially a 2 and a 2 in the same room have the same strategy for getting the attention. Who can out earn? Yeah. For the 3s, it's who can outwin. Yeah. And for 4s, who is the most captivating here? Yes. And that creates
it's hard.
A tricky spot.
I've always been jealous of other numbers that they can exist around their
countertypes.
Cousins. Yeah, I guess I'll say. Yeah. It is hard. That is part of what's hard about being in the heart triad, for sure, is that you are inherently built to not enjoy being around people like you.
This is perhaps a test for health for 2s, 3s, and 4s. Yeah. Have you done the work to find your value in something that's not other people's opinions? I bet you would be a ping for some of the relationships shared. Yeah.
Agreed.
I want to just draw special attention to the way the chapter is written again, that there's so much storytelling. There's so much. I see Alyssa and I see Will and I see Bryn, and I know that her editor on this book is a 4. She's writing 2 4s by elevating stories of fours in which she can say, I see you.
Yeah.
And that's a clever way to construct the material.
I think it is. I think it's super clever. So for anyone who doesn't have the book, what Jeff is talking about is that this is the only chapter where she'll go through the, we set it up in the intro, but what she does in all of these chapters is that she has a list of like how a 4 talks about themselves at work versus how other people would see that same trait in like a negative light, right? So I'm authentic versus I'm dramatic, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. All the chapters, she goes through all of those. In the 4 chapters specifically, she ends each of those chapters with a specific story about a 4 in her life and how they kind of represent like the good part of that comparison. And she says it's because like 4s don't understand their impact on others. Like 4s want to make an impact on others, and when they do not see it. Like they cannot be convinced that they have made a good impact on others, which I totally see in the 4s that I know. I agree with that for sure. And so what she does is that she's picked all the 4s in her life and basically is like, this is how you made a positive impact on me, so much so that you are the only person I'm going to write about in this book, right? You all are the only people that specific people that I'm going to write about in this book, which I think is so, like you said, so clever. I love it. And this is just funny. I also really admire Joey because she's an 8. She'll literally say, like in the first story about the first 4, she ends it with like, I'm an 8 and I don't talk in flowery language and I hate inauthenticity. So like, I'm not going to not do that. So, love you. Thanks. Basically, it's like how she ends it. So it's this I think it's so cute. It's like this contrast between an 8 who's not going to go on and on and on and on about how much she loves you, but she knows that this means so much to you. And so she will bring it up at least, right? She won't go on and on, but she'll say it. And I think that was super sweet, like that interaction between those 2 numbers.
I know we've talked about the parent-child relationship, 4s and 8s. She has one of the healthier relationships I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That's a difficult combination. Parent that's an 8, child that's a 4. There is a huge language barrier and value barrier between the 2. And she seems to just love the hell out of her kid and see a lot of the positive qualities there.
Yeah.
It's likewise the case. I think that impact is a great word here for that 4-6-8. Again, this is a coping style triad. 4-6-8s are shutting down thinking. If all you have is feeling and doing, it's gonna come at you. So in different ways, the 4s impact you in a certain way, 6s impact you in a different way, and 8s impact you in a third way. It's just worth naming that especially when problem solving, we feel their motive far more severely than the other types.
Yeah.
Anyway, and that should be named. I've like tons of 6-8 combinations in marriage. Both of them just really into a primary value being loyalty across 6s and 8s. And so there is a strong romantic connection that can happen with these types. Get 3 years, 5 years, 10 years into marriage, they fight emotionally, and that has to be named. Yeah. Or else you're going to be like, why are we the only ones who explode in these ways?
Yeah. You connect, through, because neither of you are going to hide your emotions. If you hid your emotions, it would feel like betrayal to the other person. Right. I forget maybe it was Suzanne or it was Joey. I think it was Suzanne, and I forget the numbers, but I think it was a couple in this group. And whoever the teacher was, when she learned that, these two people are in this group, she was like, I bet you have really good fights. And they were like, yeah. They were like, yeah, it's our love language.
It's our fighting.
And they were like, they were for real, right? Like if we didn't fight, we wouldn't love each other anymore. Like, that's how we know we love each other. So funny.
Yeah. And again, I'm just highlighting this triad. It's just, I think it's fun. 2 7s and 9s. We'll just positive outlook things to death together when the problem comes. And so of course you're not fighting.
Yeah.
You're not fighting because you don't solve problems that way.
Yeah. Something would have to go horribly wrong to get you to act to fight, you know?
Yeah. My relationship with Kelly, we focus immediately on the problem and what needs to get done. We both get very quiet, like when problems pick up.
Yeah.
And that it becomes surgery. You know, we anesthetize the patient and get our gloves on. It's time to go to work. Just scalpel this sucker, cut the tumor out so that we can get back to doing what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, lots to say there. And then across, obviously, if you wanted to talk about 9s and 3s and how that combination works, real fun. That's what I got. We're going to pick up 6s next time. You got final thoughts on 2s and 4s here?
I think my final thought is I'm going to give everyone what Joey taught me about processing centers. 3, 6, and 9, I think, are going to be the quickest to pick up processing center because we feel that cut in us in between how we take in and how we put out. There is a marked difference. Once we learn about this, I think 3, 6, and 9s can be like, oh yeah, I feel that in myself, right? The hexad numbers, though, all the other 6, there is no, I imagine you wouldn't really feel a switch in between how you take in and how you put out, right? So if this feels a little weird for you as a hexad number, I imagine that's normal. If it feels really hard for you to differentiate between when am I taking in through feeling and putting out through feeling, I imagine that's normal. I think 3, 6, and 9 are going to be the only numbers that are very quickly like, oh yeah, got it, right? I understand the difference between those two things. So I guess just if this is confusing for you or you feel like you're not understanding what's going on and you're not a 3, 6, or 9, like go easy on yourself. I think that's fine.
Boom. Love it. I mean, it's so tied to your center. This is why this has been invisible to a lot of us. It's just so tied to your center. You just chalk it up to your center.
Right.
It's good. Yeah, the only thing I would build on, and it's so worthy of note, is that movement between 2s and 4s externally, internally. We go into that in our book quite a bit when talking about affect groups, but it's very, very important to talk about how your emotions go inward, outward, and how that produces a lot of the behavior of 2s and 4s. So good stuff there. All right. Well, next time 6s.
Great.
Hey, Kay, guess what?
What?
You're the best.
You are.
I'll take it.
Somebody told me that if you look closely, you can see the color of another man's soul.
Hey friends, it's Jeff. We're getting to interview some of the most intriguing people in the Enneagram world. There are already 20 plus interviews up at aroundthecircle.org, and we're continuing to add more. That site is where we're gathering and platforming all of our best work. Much of it is available for free. Katie Whitlock and I have been doing deep studies working through wings, stance, fear, anger, and shame in our Rewired series. I'm beginning to release chapters from my next Enneagram book, which I'm calling The Steps, for early review for your consideration. And we have monthly online workshops in which 30 or so folks gather to talk about their type. There's audiobooks, there's videos, there's lots of fun stuff, lots to like. Go to aroundthecircle.org, and may all good things be yours.